things tonight. One thing that y'all need to know that is very beneficial to you is that microphone right there is hot. So everything you say, when I go back and watch this, I'll be able to hear. So, cheater, Maddox eater, no talking under your breath tonight. JC, before you leave, we have a Bible and a certificate and a book and all kinds of stuff for you. So be sure that you don't leave it sitting on the table because we want to give you that stuff. That's from the elders, and it's her baptism certificate. What am I, British also? A book and a Bible. So it's pretty neat stuff. Okay. So this is the last week that we're going to talk about 4 roads to travel. So we've been leading to a certain point, and this week we're on the road to Calvary. All right. So Calvary is one of those unique things. We sing songs about it. We talk about it. We discuss it a lot. What's the importance to the Christian of the road to Calvary? Anybody? There is no wrong answer. You know this answer. Just shout it out. Pull your mask down so I can hear you. That is the road that Jesus traveled, right? So the first thing that we're going to look at is this is a very unique place to be, right? So lots of things happen in this one. This is a road that it's so important that it gets discussed in all 4 of the Gospels. All right? Now, we're going to look specifically, if you have your Bible tonight, go to John chapter 19. We're going to look specifically at the book of John for our guidance. And it's going to be... will you text her and tell her Facebook, Chapel? So you find it in all different... of every single one of the Gospels, all right? It's Matthew 27, Mark 15, and Luke 23. So you find it in all of those Gospels in that chapter. But John wrote to a broader audience. Okay, he wrote to more of a generic audience, like an audience that kind of fit all people. Okay, not necessarily a scholarly class of people, not necessarily a very rich class of people. He wrote to everybody. So it kind of fits for us, right? We have all different styles. We have all different backgrounds. We're all different people. So John was sort of writing to people like that in his time. So that's why I think I like the Gospel of John the most out of all of them, because I believe he kind of speaks to me the easiest, right? So we're going to look at John chapter 19 for what we're going to talk about tonight, all right? So the road to Calvary was one that is full of suffering. It's full of pain. It's full of, I mean, it's tough to think about. We think about the crucifixion in such broad terms. All right, and sometimes the broadness of what we talk about when we talk about the crucifixion, sometimes we forget about the agonizing pain that led up to that event. Okay, we talk about the pain, we talk about the beating, we talk about all the different things that happened to Jesus while he's on his road to being crucified. Endurance was a big thing. Okay. You and I have been faced with problems of endurance before, where we've just wanted to quit, where we just thought it would be easier to just stop. It would have been easier on our bodies, on our brains. It would have been easier just all the way around for us to just stop. That's okay. We've had those thoughts before. If you think that Jesus probably went through the same mindset, it's probably safe to think that. But the road to Calvary is full of pain and endurance. It's full of suffering. It's full of sacrifice. It's full of all of these different things. And it really, to me, it brings in what Jesus... Y'all are wearing the same shirt. It really brings in what Jesus went through, and it brings out the human element in who Jesus was to me. Because on this particular road, we go through all of the gospel, and we go through all of Jesus' ministry, and we read about this man who is going to places, healing people, saving people, having conversations with people and turning their life around, and it when you talk to people who are new to Christianity, or maybe they don't know Christianity, maybe they don't know Jesus, you start talking to them about Jesus, and you start telling them all the things about Jesus, and they think there's no way that this guy could be real. Everything about him has to be some sort of fantasy land. It has to be some sort of fairy tale. This road puts it all in perspective, because he goes through everything at this particular time that we've ever been through, even more. You think about how gruesome the road to Calvary had to be. You think about how painful and how degrading it had to be. As you're walking the final steps of your life, and people are yelling at you, people are screaming at you, people are cursing you, people are spitting on you, people are beating you, it's not exactly the easiest road to travel. And sometimes we steer away from Christianity because we're what? We're afraid of what people might say to us. We think about the negativity that comes along with Christianity, and it prevents us from moving forward because we don't what? We don't want to be tied to negativity. People don't always have all the answers. People have lots of questions about Christianity. People have a lot of questions about, did Jesus really care for me? Take them to John 19. Take them to all the different stories in the gospel where Jesus was riding and walking to his death. Now, you think about endurance, okay? We talk about running, not necessarily the running where you black out and you get scars all over your body. We're not talking about that kind of running, but you talk about running. You talk about finishing the race, right? You run the race. Y'all ever been in a situation where you feel like the shortest amount of time felt like the longest amount of time? Okay? Maybe you had plans to do something after school, and it just felt like that 8 to 3 was the longest 8 to 3 you've ever had in your lifetime. That happens. I can't imagine that the road to Calvary was something that felt short to Jesus. I don't like for people to talk ugly to me. I don't like for people to be angry at me. I try to do things where people like me and enjoy being around me. I like those things. I like to feel that way. But it doesn't always happen. So when people have something negative, and sometimes even when people have advice for me, it kind of hurts. These people were not giving Jesus advice. These people were wishing nothing but hurtful and deadly things for Jesus. And that's what he endured. That's what he pushed through for you and for me. Sometimes we think about the cross as just this one event. He was hung on the cross, died, buried, rose again. And that's really what we contain the crucifixion into. It's one box of a death, a burial, and resurrection. We don't talk about the road that got him there very often because it's not comfortable. Because sometimes it guilts us into thinking, okay, I've been acting real dumb, and this is a man that endured everything for me. So we steer away from talking about this particular road because it brings us to a point where we understand, I just haven't been doing things the right way. I haven't been doing things the best way possible, so I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about Jesus giving his life and going through absolute torment to get there, to give his life for me. I don't want to talk about that. This is a road that's full of Jesus giving his example to us. All right, so Jesus was delivered to be crucified. So let's just read. Let's read through verse 16. Not everybody read all 16 verses. Just break it up like we did last week. Do I have any volunteers to start? Let's just read 4 verses at a time. All right, Gunner's going to start us. Read the first 4, and then we'll go through the rest.
So then Pilate took Jesus and scourged him, and the soldiers twisted a crown of thorns and put it on his head, and they put on a purple robe. Then they said, "Hail, King of the Jews," and struck him with their hands. Pilate then went out again and said to them, "Behold, I am bringing him out to you, that you may know that I find no fault in him."
All right, somebody else want to pick up? Okay, so let's just put this in perspective. Reese Pate, say that you had given everything that you possibly had for everybody in this room. Come here. Come here. Come stand up here with me. Look at all these people. You gave them everything. Everything. Tell her hair looks bad. Do it. Now, she didn't mean that. She was under my influence, right? So, thank you. But you had given everything to all these people. But they didn't care. In the end of it, all they wanted to see was you suffer. Stinks, doesn't it? Okay? Now, Angela's your friend. I told her to do something that was not very nice, and she still did it. You know what she could have done? She could have said no. But for the purpose of the example, she bought in, and I'm thankful that she did. Okay? But think about it. How easy would it have been for Angela in a real-life situation to have just said, I'm not going to do that. No, you give me the person that's looked out for me. How easy would that have been? That would have been the right thing to do, right? How many times have people done something good for you or good for somebody else, and then you watch somebody else just absolutely turn their back on them in a minute? Because it's the easy thing to do. Jesus has been taken away, and so now these people that he has worked with and gone out for and sacrificed for and tried to help, they don't care anymore. In fact, they had rather have a criminal released to them than to have the one who loved them with everything. Now, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It doesn't give us a whole lot of reference for what's really happening, because my hope is that you don't act that way. When people do good things for you, my hope is that you want to give them good things in return. That's my hope. But oftentimes it's easy to pile up on people. It's easy to pile up on people because that's what everybody else is doing, so we might as well do it too. If everybody else is ganging up on them, if everybody else is trying to make an example out of them, I'll just pile on top. Reese stood up here and had a friend tell her, your hair looks like trash, because I made her do that. I don't know, but I would venture to think that there were people in that crowd that were screaming for Jesus to be crucified and to turn a criminal loose. There's probably some people that were saying it and thinking, this isn't right. So what happens next? All right, let's pick back up. Let's read this. Let's read 17 through 27. Does anybody want to particular read that all on by themselves? Yes. So, you ever just been like super involved in a situation where you felt like all the attention was focused on you? Shouldn't be, but all the attention is on you. It's just sort of fell in your plate. It's like everything's just crumbling around you, and all of a sudden you're standing there in the midst of all this that's just falling around you. And it seemed pretty good at one point, but now it's all of a sudden just sort of falling around you. Can you imagine the heartbreak of Jesus' mother at this time? Just imagine what's going through her mind. I'm going to tell you something about your parents, okay, that you don't think about a lot. But if I'm being honest with you, at your age, I didn't think about a lot either. The person who provides for you and cares for you and is a guardian to you, they're exactly that. They love you. It's not always easy for them. It's not always the easiest thing for them. When you hurt, they hurt more. I can tell you that very matter-of-factly. When my boys hurt, it hurts me more. They don't understand that, and you probably don't understand that yet either. You've heard your parents say that. Okay, I still think it's trash when my mom used to say, when she would whip me, this hurts me more than it does you. Physically, that's impossible. Okay? Don't lie to me. Just tell me this is for your own good, and then wear me out. Don't lie to me, okay? You can't con the con man, all right? But when my kids physically hurt or mentally they hurt, that hurts me. When people are ugly to my kids, that makes me angry. But as a father, I've got to allow them opportunities to grow. Now, for me, it's easier with Chapman. It's easier for me with Chapman to let him go and to let him do stuff and to let him push the envelope a little more. I'm a little more free with Chapman. Because, you know, I've been through it with one kid. I was super protective of that oldest kid. I wanted to essentially keep him in a bubble and just provide for him and him never have to worry or have to struggle or have to hurt. And I just kind of realized, look, this kid is wild as a buck. Something's going to happen. He's going to do something. It's going to happen. Chapman handles things differently than Pearson. As a parent, I've got to look at that. I've got to look at the way that Pearson handles things and the way that Chapman handles things. They're two totally different kids. They always have been, they always will be. But when I think about how I have to provide for them, when they hurt, I hurt more. Mary's in that same boat. As a mother, her son is hurting. He's been made a fool in front of all these people that he gave his life for, that he's going to give his life for. And he looks at her and says, hey, look at me. Now, did Mary have other kids? We've talked about this before. Mary have other kids? Yes. Okay. Do we read about them a whole lot? It's pretty, I mean, they're there. They're there. You read about Jesus' brothers, right? You read about those people. But do we read about them a whole lot? Probably because they didn't save the free world, okay? But they're there, all right? Imagine Mary at this point in her life. She has other children. But the one who gave his life for everybody is hurting. It's got to be an uncomfortable feeling. It's the road of pain and endurance. All right, Hebrews chapter 12 and verse 2. Somebody look at it. And then John chapter 15 and verse 13. If you get there, read it. Do what? Hebrews 12 and verse 2.
Looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and has sat down at the right hand of the throne of God.
All right, so why is that important? Why is it important? What Gunnar just read. Why To me, that's one of the most important verses in the Bible that a Christian can read and keep fresh on their memory. Why? Because the one who gave you everything provides everything. He gave you his life. And it's because of that sacrifice that you have the capability to have everything. It's really kind of simple. What about the next one? John 15 and verse 13. Somebody read that one. Who did that? Who did that for you, Hunter Bridges? Me too, man. No love is greater than that love. The pain, the endurance, the suffering, there's nothing greater than that. The end result of all of those things, there's nothing greater. There's nothing more that Jesus could have done than to give his life for me and for you, all right? What sacrifice have you made? What's something that you have given up to make sure that you're properly following Jesus? You have to, don't you? It's hard too, isn't it? People you've known your entire life. People who have been with you. People who were in your wedding on my side of it. And you have to separate. At your wedding, not in your wedding. I still talk to all the people that were in our wedding. You have to make decisions. You have to decide, do these people help me? That's a big one, Jonah. Jonah stole the thunder right out of the gate, but that's a big one. What's something else that you've had to give up? You're going to have to give up time. You're going to have to sacrifice time. You guys are busy people. You do a lot of stuff. You're involved in a lot of things. Trust me. I have the schedules on my phone from when all of y'all were like pee-wee football players and cheerleaders, except you two. And you. So, why? Why are we involved in so many things? Because we love it, right? We thrive on it. We enjoy doing those things. We enjoy preparing for those things. We enjoy being involved in those things. Do we make that same sort of sacrifice for God? That's a big question. And I think sometimes we want to stay away from what the answer really is. Because the answer is not the answer that we want to give. So we just don't talk about it. You're going to have to sacrifice the way that you speak. I grew up in Green Hill. I went to school right across the street. I know how people talk over there. I'm not dumb. I know how people talk over there. To truly follow Jesus, you got to give some of that up. Now, if I stood up here and told you that I wasn't guilty of some of those same conversations when I walked that hallway, I'd be a liar of all liars. But you got to give some of those conversations up. I'm telling you things now that will help you that I had to learn later. I've told you before. Your faith now, watching you and watching you grow in your faith now is much stronger than mine ever was as a teenager. As it was as I went through college. Your faith is stronger now than mine ever was. Maybe you don't have those conversations. Maybe you don't talk the way that they talk, that other people talk, that the world talks. Maybe you don't do that. But what about those people? It goes back to what Jonah said. Sometimes you just have to draw the line. All right. The last thing I want us to look at, Luke chapter 9 and verse 23. Somebody go there, read that one quickly, and then we'll be out of here. What does that mean, Olivia? It means you got to give stuff up. It means there are things you got to sacrifice in life that you really love, that you really want to be a part of, that you've really always enjoyed having around. You got to give them up. Was it right on the face? Of course it was. That fall when you were running too? Come on, man. You got to give stuff up. You got to make sacrifice. You got to be willing to move toward following Jesus a little closer. The pain, the suffering, the endurance that He gave me and you, we've got to be willing to give that back. There are things that Jesus did. There are conversations that He had. There are ways that He influenced people that I will not reach, and neither will you. But we got to be trying. We got to be moving. We got to be pushing forward. Because without that, we're not making sacrifices. We're not trying to follow Jesus in the best way that we can. So, as we finish this up, okay, we're going to talk about a few different other things as time goes on in the next couple of weeks, but then we'll start the Old Testament study with McKinley and what they're going to be doing in there. We're going to mesh it together, so it's going to be a lot of fun. So we'll talk about a couple of different things. But as we bring this one to a close, the challenge is this. The 4 roads are different, but we have to travel each one. We have to be aware of each one. We have to be aware of the challenges for each one. And we have to be willing to make sacrifices to get to the end. When the road forks, be sure that you're on the right side. When the road comes to an end, make sure that you've done everything you can and not worry about the rearview mirror. All right? Thanks for being a part of this. Thank you for being here tonight. Nicholas is going to dismiss us in prayer, and then we'll be done for tonight.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this beautiful day that you bless us with. Thank you for allowing us all to gather here and worship your word. And please be with the soldiers that are fighting overseas and the veterans that have fought in the past. And please allow everybody to travel home safely tonight. And thank you for only begotten Son, that cruel cross of God for all our sins. In His name, amen.
Amen. All right.